Captain Hyun-woo stared at the endless stars through the viewport of Aurora Station. The deep space monitoring post floated silently in the darkness, far beyond Earth's colonies. For 3 years, he had commanded this remote outpost, listening for signals from the unknown regions of space. Most days brought nothing but cosmic static and the hum of machinery. Today felt different. Ji-yoon sat at her communications console, headphones pressed against her ears. She was the best signal analyst in the fleet, able to pick out patterns that others missed. Her fingers danced across the controls as she fine-tuned the receivers. "Captain," she called softly, her voice tight with concentration. "I'm getting something strange on the long-range array." Hyun-woo moved to her station. The screen showed waves of data flowing past in green lines. To most people, it looked like random noise, but Ji-eun could read these patterns like words on a page. "It's weak," she said, adjusting the filters. "Very weak, but it's definitely artificial. Someone is broadcasting this signal." The captain leaned closer. "Can you clean it up?" Ji-eun's hands moved quickly over the controls. Slowly the static began to clear. A voice emerged from the noise, speaking in a language neither of them had heard before. But embedded in the signal was something else. A translation matrix, a set of codes that would help them understand the meaning. "Smart," Hyun-woo muttered. "Whoever sent this knew we might not speak their language." The translation software worked for several minutes, building a vocabulary from the repeated words and phrases. Finally, text began appearing on the screen. Ji-eun's face went pale as she read the words. "Captain, you need to see this." The message was desperate and frightening. An alien species called the Valerie was crying out for help. Their homeworld was under attack by something called the Kreth Empire. Their cities were burning. Their ships were being destroyed. They were dying. "We are a peaceful people," the translated message read. "We build and create. We trade and learn. We do not know war. But the Kreth know only war. They take everything. They destroy everything. They kill everyone." Hyun-woo felt a chill run down his spine. The message continued, describing how the Kreth fleet had arrived without warning. They had demanded complete surrender. When the Velari tried to negotiate, the Kreth had started killing. "We offer everything we have," the message pleaded. "Our technology, our knowledge, our entire civilization's database. Please, if anyone receives this, help us. We are running out of time." Ji-eun checked the signal's origin point. "It's coming from the Andros sector, sir. That's 47 light years from here." Hyun-woo's jaw tightened. "How old is this signal?" "Based on the transmission strength and distance, about 3 weeks old, sir." 3 weeks. The captain stared at the screen, knowing that by now the situation might already be over. The Velari might already be dead. But they had to try to help. "Send a priority message to Earth Defense Command," he ordered. "Tell them we need to speak with Admiral Taemin immediately." The message reached Earth in hours through the quantum communication network. Admiral Taemin was a hard man who had fought in the frontier wars against pirates and hostile aliens. He understood the reality of space. It was dangerous, and sometimes good people died because help came too late, but he also understood something else. The Velari signal had been broadcast on all frequencies, which meant other species might have received it too. If the Kreth Empire was as dangerous as the message suggested, they wouldn't stop with one species. Taemin called his best intelligence officer, So Young, to his office. She was young but brilliant, with an ability to see patterns that others missed. "What do we know about this Kreth Empire?" he asked, showing her the translated message. So Young had already been researching. Nothing in our databases, sir, but I've been analyzing the signal patterns and the technology described in their message. The Kreth use brute force tactics. Large fleets, heavy weapons, no subtlety. They seem to overwhelm their enemies with pure firepower. The Admiral frowned. And the Velari? Peaceful traders and scholars, just like they said. Their technology is advanced, but not military. They've never had to fight a real war. Taemin walked to the window of his office, looking out at the blue, Earth below. Humanity had been lucky so far. They had encountered several alien species, but most had been either friendly or too weak to pose a real threat. The few hostile encounters had been with pirates or small groups. Nothing like this. Kreth Empire. Sir, So Young said quietly, there's something else. The Velari mentioned they're traders. That means they travel between star systems. They probably know about other species, including us. The implication hit Taemin immediately. If the Kreth conquered the Velari, they would learn about human space. And if they were truly a genocidal empire, they would eventually come for Earth. Get me President Yunhai, he ordered, and start preparing a briefing for the Defense Council. We need to discuss our options. The briefing took place 6 hours, later in the secure chambers beneath the Defense Command building. President Yunhai listened carefully as Taemin explained the situation. The other council members asked hard questions about resources, logistics, and the risks of getting involved in an alien war. How do we know this isn't a trap? Asked Defense Minister Sung Woo. What if the Kreth sent this message to lure other species into a war? So Young had considered this possibility. The signal characteristics are consistent with a desperate broadcast, sir. Also, the translation matrix includes cultural information that would be very difficult to fake. The Velari really are scholars and traders. President Yunhai was quiet for a long moment. She had led humanity through difficult times before, making choices that determined the fate of billions of people. This felt like one of those moments. What would we be sending into this conflict? She asked. Admiral Taemin had already considered the military options. Our fastest response would be the 7th Expeditionary Fleet, 200 ships, including the new dreadnought Indomitable Fury. They're currently on training exercises near the outer colonies. How long to reach the Andros sector? 2 weeks at maximum hyperspace velocity. The president nodded slowly. 2 weeks to travel 47 light years, plus the 3 weeks the signal had already taken to reach them. By the time human ships arrived, the Velari might be nothing but memory and ash, but that wasn't the only consideration. Earth's reputation in the galaxy was growing. Other species had started calling humans Deathworlders, beings from a planet so hostile that it had forged them into natural warriors. Most aliens found human combat capabilities terrifying. If the Kreth Empire was as dangerous as it seemed, someone had to stop them. And humanity might be the only species with both the capability and the will to fight. President Yunhai looked around the table at her advisors. If we do this, we do it right. Full military response, no holding back. The galaxy needs to know that genocidal empires will not be tolerated. She turned to Admiral Taemin. Prepare the 7th Fleet for immediate deployment. Their mission is simple. Save the Velari and destroy the Kreth Empire's ability to threaten innocent species. The Admiral nodded grimly. Yes, Madam President. What about rules of engagement? Yunhai's expression hardened. Show them why humans are called Deathworlders. Fleet Admiral Dong Hyun had seen many wars in his long career. He had fought pirates in the asteroid belts, hostile aliens on the frontier worlds, and rebellious colonies that thought they could break free from Earth's protection. But this was different. This was about saving an entire species from extinction. The emergency council session was held in the war room deep beneath Geneva. The massive holographic display showed the current position of Earth's fleets scattered across human space on various missions. Red indicators marked potential threats, while green showed friendly territories. The Andros sector appeared as a distant yellow dot, far beyond the edge of human space. "The situation is clear," Dong-hyun began, addressing the assembled officers. "An alien species called the Valari is being systematically exterminated by something called the Kreth Empire. They've asked for help, offering everything they have in return." Colonel Min Soo, head of fleet logistics, raised his hand. "Sir, the Andros sector is beyond our current supply lines. If we send ships there, they'll be operating without support." "That's a valid concern," Dong-hyun acknowledged. "But our intelligence suggests this Kreth Empire won't stop with the Valari. If they're truly genocidal, they'll eventually expand into our space." Commander Mireille stepped forward. She was young for her rank, but her expertise in alien cultures made her invaluable. Her dark hair was pulled back in a severe bun, and her eyes held the intensity of someone who had studied humanity's enemies for years. "Admirals, I've been analyzing the Valari transmission," she said, activating a holographic display. "The Kreth Empire doesn't just conquer, they practice complete genocide. They kill every member of a species, then strip mine their worlds for resources." The room fell silent as images appeared in the air above the table. The data came from the Valari message, showing destroyed cities and burning ships. "They've done this before," Mireille continued. "The Valari mention at least 6 other species that the Kreth have completely wiped out. This isn't random violence, it's systematic extermination." General Hak Soo, the oldest officer present, frowned. "How do we know the Valari are telling the truth? This could be propaganda." Mireille had expected this question. "The cultural data in their transmission is too detailed to fake, sir. They've included historical records, art, music, even children's stories. No military deception would include such depth." She paused, then added quietly, "Besides, sir, their transmission patterns show desperation. These are people watching their world die." At the far end of the table, Admiral Jae-sung had been listening quietly. At 35, he was the youngest admiral in Earth defense history, promoted after his brilliant tactics during the Proxima Rebellion. His reputation for aggressive but precise military action had earned him command of the elite 7th Expeditionary Fleet. "What's the current status of the Kreth forces?" he asked. Mireille brought up new displays. "Based on the Valari data, approximately 500 ships, large, heavily armed but using outdated tactics. They rely on overwhelming firepower rather than strategy." Jae-sung nodded slowly. "Classic bully tactics. They've never fought anyone who could fight back." "That's our assessment as well," Dong-hyun agreed. "The Kreth have been picking on peaceful species. They've never faced a real military force." The discussion continued for another hour, covering logistics, tactics, and political implications. Some officers argued that Earth couldn't afford to get involved in distant alien wars. Others pointed out that ignoring genocide sent a dangerous message to other hostile species. Finally, Jae-sung stood up. "Admirals, with respect, we're overthinking this. The Valari asked for help. They're offering everything they have in exchange for their lives. How is this even a debate?" Silence filled the room. Jae-sung looked around the table, meeting each officer's eyes. "We call ourselves the defenders of humanity," he continued. "We fought wars to protect human colonies from pirates and hostiles. Are we really going to stand by and watch genocide happen because the victims aren't human?" Colonel Minsu shifted uncomfortably. "Admiral, it's not that simple. The resources required will be less than we spent on the last anti-piracy campaign," Jae-sung interrupted. "The 7th Fleet is already assembled and ready. We can be in hyperspace within 18 hours. Commander Mirai supported him. "Sir, there's another consideration. The Valari are traders. They know about other species, possibly including us. If the Kreth capture their databases, they'll learn about human space." This argument carried weight. Several officers began nodding. As they considered the implications, Admiral Dong-hyun raised his hand for silence. "Admiral Jae-sung, if I authorize this mission, what would be your operational plan?" Jae-sung had been thinking about this since the briefing began. "Simple, sir. The 7th Fleet jumps to the Andros sector at maximum speed. We assess the situation, evacuate any surviving Valari, and engage the Kreth fleet with the goal of complete destruction." "Complete destruction?" General Haksu asked. "Yes, sir. If they're truly genocidal, they can't be allowed to continue existing as a threat." The room buzzed with quiet conversations as officers discussed the proposal. The 7th Fleet was Earth's most advanced military force, equipped with the latest weapons and crewed by veteran soldiers. If any human force could handle this mission, it was them. Admiral Dong-hyun made his decision. "I'll recommend approval to the President. Admiral Jae-sung, prepare your fleet for immediate departure. Your mission parameters are as follows. First, save any surviving Valari. Second, eliminate the Kreth Empire as a threat to galactic peace." Jae-sung saluted. "Understood, sir. Rules of engagement?" Dong-hyun's expression grew cold. "The Kreth have chosen to practice genocide. They've forfeited any right to mercy. Your fleet is authorized to use any and all necessary force." 2 hours later, President Yoon-hae reviewed the military recommendation in her office. She was a small woman with steel-gray hair and eyes that had seen too much violence in her years leading humanity. The weight of command had taught her that sometimes the hardest decisions were also the most necessary. "You're asking me to send our best fleet into unknown space to fight an empire we know nothing about," she said to Admiral Dong-hyun. "Yes, Madam President, but we know enough. They practice genocide and they're expanding. If we don't stop them now, we'll face them later under worse circumstances." Yoon-hae studied the tactical displays showing the 7th Fleet's composition. 200 ships, including the massive dreadnought Indomitable Fury, thousands of crew, members, all volunteers who had sworn to defend humanity and its values. What are the chances of success? Admiral Jae-sung estimates 70% odds of complete victory, 90% odds of saving significant numbers of Valari. The president nodded slowly. Throughout history, humanity had struggled with the question of when to intervene in the suffering of others. Sometimes they had acted too late. Sometimes they had acted unwisely. But rarely had the moral case been so clear. "Authorization granted," she said firmly. "Tell Admiral Jae-sung that he carries the authority of Earth and the hopes of humanity. Show the galaxy that genocidal empires will not be tolerated." Admiral Dong-hyun saluted and left to transmit the orders. Alone in her office, President Yoon-hae looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, an alien species was dying while crying out for help. Soon they would learn that their call had been heard. She touched the communication panel on her desk. "Get me Admiral Jae-sung. The young admiral's face appeared on the screen, his eyes bright with anticipation. "Admiral, you have full authorization for this mission. But understand, the galaxy is watching. Our response here will determine how other species see humanity for generations to come." Jae-sung nodded solemnly. "We won't let them down, madam. President, the Kreth will learn why Earth forged us into weapons." The Mars Naval Shipyard stretched across the red planet's orbit like a metal city in space. Thousands of workers moved between the construction bays, finishing repairs and loading supplies onto the ships of the 7th Expeditionary Fleet. The activity never stopped, day or night, as humanity's finest military force prepared for war. Admiral Jae-sung stood on the command bridge of the indomitable Fury, watching the final preparations through the massive viewport. The dreadnought was 2 kilometers long and packed with enough firepower to level a small moon. Around it, 199 other ships moved in precise formations, each one a masterpiece of human military engineering. "Admiral, all ships, report ready for departure," announced Commander Hyo-jin, his chief tactical officer. She was a small woman with sharp eyes and a mind that could process battlefield information faster than most computers. Her experience in asymmetric warfare made her invaluable for fighting unknown enemies. "Excellent," Jae-sung replied. "What's our final crew count?" 43,000 personnel across the entire fleet, sir. All volunteers, all combat veterans." Jae-sung nodded with satisfaction. When word had spread about the mission, applications had flooded in from soldiers throughout human space. Everyone wanted to be part of the force that would show the galaxy what humanity stood for. Engineering Chief Woo Sung approached with his final report. He was a stocky man whose hands were permanently stained with machine oil and whose mind understood technology better than most AI systems. "All ships report full combat readiness, Admiral," he said, handing over a data pad. "Weapons, shields, engines, everything is operating at peak efficiency. We've also installed the new battlefield repair systems on every ship." "The rapid refit modules?" Jae-sung asked. "Yes, sir. If we capture enemy technology, we can analyze and adapt it within hours. The Kreth won't be the only ones learning from this fight." Intelligence Commander Nari joined them at the tactical display. She had spent the past week analyzing every piece of data from the Valari transmission, building profiles of both species involved in the conflict. "Admiral, I've completed my analysis of Kreth tactics," she reported. "They use brute force strategies, exclusively. Large formations, heavy bombardment, no subtlety. It's effective against peaceful species, but they've never faced organized resistance." "What about their technology?" Hyo-jin asked. "Advanced but predictable. Their ships are heavily armored and armed, but they seem to lack tactical flexibility. They probably overwhelm their enemies so quickly that they've never needed to adapt." Jae-sung studied the holographic projections showing estimated Kreth ship designs. "They're bullies. They pick on species that can't fight back." "That's my assessment." "As well, sir," Nari agreed. "The Valari data suggests the Kreth demand immediate surrender. When they don't get it, they start killing." Squadron leader Chang Min arrived to deliver his final pilot briefings. He commanded the elite Ghost Wing fighter squadron, 12 pilots who had never lost an engagement. His ships were faster and more maneuverable than anything else in space, all lie. "Fighter wings report ready, Admiral," he said with a confident grin. "My pilots are eager to show these Kreth what real combat flying looks like." Jae-sung gathered his senior staff around the main tactical display. The hologram showed their planned route to the Andros sector. a straight line through mostly empty space that would get them there in minimum time. People, we're about to embark on humanity's first major intervention in an alien war, he began. The Volari are counting on us. The galaxy is watching us. And the future of human space might depend on how we handle this situation. He touched the display, highlighting their destination. Intelligence suggests the Kreth have been attacking for over a month. By the time we arrive, the situation will be desperate. We'll need to act fast and hit hard. Commander Hyo-jin brought up tactical projections. Sir, if the Kreth have 500 ships like the Volari reported, we'll be outnumbered more than 2-1. Numbers don't win battles, Jae-sung replied. Training, tactics, and determination win battles. The Kreth might have more ships, but they've never fought humans. Engineering Chief Woo-sung nodded agreement. Our ships are faster, more maneuverable, and better equipped. Plus, we can repair and refit during battle if needed. What about civilian evacuations? Asked Nari. If there are surviving Volari, we'll need to protect them. Chang-min stepped forward. My fighters can provide escort cover. We'll keep the Kreth busy while the evacuation ships do their work. Jae-sung was pleased with his team's readiness. These officers had worked together for 3 years, fighting pirates and rebels across the frontier. They understood each other's strengths and could coordinate complex operations without detailed orders. Our primary objective is saving Volari lives, he continued, but we also need to send a message to the galaxy. Genocidal empires cannot be allowed to exist. The Kreth Empire ends with us. A communication chime interrupted the briefing. President Yunhaya's face appeared on the main screen, transmitted from Earth. Admiral Jae-sung, the eyes of humanity are upon you, she said solemnly. You carry our hopes and our values into the unknown. Show the galaxy what we stand for. Jae-sung saluted. We won't disappoint you, Madam President. I know you won't. Good hunting, Admiral. The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in contemplative silence. Everyone understood the weight of their mission. This wasn't just about saving one species. It was about establishing humanity's role in galactic affairs. All ships, prepare. For hyperspace jump, Jae-sung ordered over the fleet communication system. Set course for the Andros sector, maximum velocity. The response came back immediately from ship after ship. Indomitable Fury, this is Thunderbolt, ready for jump. Indomitable Fury, this is Razor's Edge, standing by. Indomitable Fury, this is Iron Will, ready to deploy. 200 ships, 43,000 crew members, all united in purpose. They would travel 47 light years in 2 weeks, racing against time to save a species they had never met. Admiral, Commander Hyo-jin announced, all ships report ready for hyperspace. Jae-sung looked around his bridge one final time. His crew was ready. His ships were ready. The only question was whether they would arrive in time to make a difference. Execute jump, he ordered. Space twisted around the 7th Fleet as the hyperspace drives engaged. Stars stretched into lines of light as 200 human warships vanished from Mars' orbit, carrying the fury of Earth toward a distant war. Behind them, the shipyard workers watched the empty space where the fleet had been. Many of them had friends or family aboard those ships. They had built and repaired those vessels, knowing they might never see them return. But they also knew something else. If the Kreth Empire thought they could practice genocide without consequences, they were about to learn otherwise. Humanity had sent its best warriors to deliver a simple message. Innocent species would be protected, and those who threatened them would face the wrath of Earth's children. In the depths of hyperspace, Admiral J. Sung stood on his bridge and thought about the Valari transmission. Somewhere ahead, an entire civilization was fighting for survival. Soon they would learn that their desperate call for help had been answered. The Deathworlders were coming. The first Kreth ship died before its crew even knew they were under attack. Commander Hyo Jin had planned the opening strike with surgical precision. 20 human destroyers dropped out of hyperspace directly behind the Kreth bombardment fleet, their weapons already charged and locked onto targets. The enemy ships were floating motionless above the burning Valari homeworld, focused on the destruction below. "Fire!" Admiral J. Sung commanded quietly. The void erupted in brilliant flashes as human weapons unleashed their fury. Kinetic bombardment. Rounds moving at significant fractions of light speed punched through Kreth armor like paper. Plasma cannons turned enemy ships into expanding clouds of superheated gas. In the first 30 seconds of combat, 15 Kreth vessels simply ceased to exist. The surviving Kreth ships tried to respond, but their formations were built for overwhelming weak opponents, not fighting a real military force. They turned their massive guns toward the human fleet, but the Earth ships were already moving, using their superior speed to stay ahead of the enemy targeting systems. "Ghostwing, you are clear for attack," Jae Sung ordered. Squadron leader Chang Min led his fighters in a devastating strafing run. The small, fast human ships wove between the lumbering Kreth vessels like deadly insects, their precision weapons targeting critical systems. Engine sections exploded. Command bridges disappeared in balls of fire. Weapon turrets went silent as their control systems died. "This is Ghost Leader," Chang Min reported, his voice tight with concentration. "Enemy ships are slow and poorly coordinated. They're trying to hit us with weapons designed for capital ship combat." "Understood. Continue your attacks." On the bridge of the Indomitable Fury, Intelligence Commander Nari was analyzing enemy communications. The Kreth commanders were shouting orders in their harsh language, but the translation system revealed their confusion and growing panic. "Admiral, they're calling for reinforcements," she reported. "The other Kreth groups are moving to support this position." "How long until they arrive?" "Approximately 2 hours at their current speed." Jae Sung nodded. 2 hours was more than enough time to finish this engagement and begin evacuation operations. "Continue the attack. All ships, focus fire on the largest vessels." The human fleet moved like a pack of wolves, each ship supporting the others in coordinated strikes against specific targets. The Kreth tried to form defensive formations, but their ships were too slow and their commanders too inflexible. They had spent so long fighting helpless opponents that they had forgotten how to fight a real war. Engineering Chief Woo Sung monitored the battle from his position, watching as human. Technology proved its superiority. "Admiral, we're detecting massive structural weaknesses in their ships. They've prioritized firepower over engineering. One good hit to their power systems, and they're dead in space." "Pass that information to all ships," Jae Sung ordered. The tactical data spread through the human fleet instantly. Gun crews adjusted their targeting, focusing on the Kreth power cores instead of their thick armor. The results were spectacular. Enemy ships began losing power and drifting helplessly as their engines failed. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission from the Kreth flagship," Nari announced. "Put it through." The voice that filled the bridge was deep and harsh, speaking in the brutal language of the Kreth Empire. The translation came a moment later. "Unknown vessels, you will cease your attack immediately. This system belongs to the Kreth Empire. Your interference will not be tolerated." Admiral Jae Sung stepped forward, his voice cold as space itself. "This is Admiral Jae Sung of the United Earth Federation. You are guilty of genocide against the Valari people. Surrender immediately or be destroyed. Laughter echoed from the alien voice. Humans? We have heard of you. You are from a primitive world. You cannot stand against the might of the Kreth Empire. You're about to learn otherwise, Jae-sung replied, then cut the transmission. All ships, target the enemy flagship. Let's show them what Deathworlders can do. The indomitable Fury turned its massive guns toward the Kreth command ship. The alien vessel was enormous, 3 times the size of the human dreadnought, covered in armor and bristling with weapons. It looked unstoppable. It died in 47 seconds. Human weapons tore through its defenses like a storm of destruction. The ship's armor, designed to resist the primitive weapons of peaceful species, proved useless against Earth's military technology. Explosion after explosion rocked the massive vessel until it finally broke apart, spilling atmosphere and crew into the vacuum. The surviving Kreth ships began to retreat, but the human fleet was faster. Commander Hyojin coordinated pursuit operations, ensuring that no enemy vessel escaped to report human capabilities to their empire. Admiral, Changmin's voice came through the communicator. I'm detecting escape pods from the damaged Kreth ships. Orders? Jae-sung considered for a moment. Military doctrine called for rescuing enemy survivors when possible. But these weren't ordinary enemies. They were genocidal murderers who had spent weeks killing civilians. Let them drift, he said finally. They chose to practice genocide. They can face the consequences. The battle for the Valari homeworld was over in less than 2 hours. 83 Kreth ships destroyed, with no human losses. The remaining enemy vessels had either been destroyed or had fled toward their reinforcements. All ships, begin search and rescue operations, Jae-sung ordered. Find every surviving Valari and get them to safety. The human fleet spread across the system, their sensors searching through debris fields and asteroid clusters for signs of life. Medical ships prepared to receive alien refugees, while fighter squadrons provided escort protection. Admiral, I'm getting communications from multiple Valari positions, Nari reported. They're coming out of hiding. The first Valari ship to approach the human fleet was small and damaged, its hull scarred from weeks of running and hiding. Admiral Jae-sung watched through the viewport as it slowly approached the indomitable Fury. Unknown human vessel came, the translated voice. This is Valari scholar Captain Thale. We cannot believe you are real. We thought we were going to die. You're safe now, Jae-sung replied. Bring your people to our medical ships. We'll protect you. Over the next several hours, surviving Valari emerged from their hiding places across the system. 30 ships carrying 50,000 civilians, all that remained of a species that had once numbered in the billions. Many were injured or traumatized, but they were alive. Commander Yu Jin, the fleet's chief medical officer, coordinated the rescue operations. Her ships worked around the clock, treating wounded Valari and providing them with food, water, and safe places to rest. Admiral, she reported during one of the medical briefings, the Valari are in bad shape physically, but their spirit isn't broken. They keep asking about our plans. They want to know if we're really going to stop the Kreth Empire. Jae-sung looked at the tactical displays showing the approaching enemy reinforcements. 400 Kreth ships were moving toward their position, probably expecting to find their comrades finishing off the last Valari survivors. Instead, they would find 200 human warships ready for battle. Tell them we're just getting started, he said grimly. The Kreth Empire wanted a war with Deathworlders. Now they're going to get one. Intelligence Commander Nari approached with new data from the captured Kreth computers. Admiral, we've accessed their navigation databases. We know the location of their home system and their major military bases. How many total ships does their empire have? Approximately 2,000 vessels across 50 star systems. The numbers were daunting, but Jae-sung had faced bad odds before. The key was not to fight the entire enemy fleet at once, but to defeat them piece by piece while protecting the innocent. Begin planning our next operations, he ordered. The Valari are safe for now, but there are other species out there that need our protection. As the human fleet prepared for the next phase of the war, word began to spread through the galaxy. The Deathworlders of Earth had intervened in the Kreth genocide. They had saved the Valari and destroyed an entire enemy fleet without losing a single ship. For peaceful species throughout the galaxy, it was a message of hope. For aggressive empires like the Kreth, it was a warning. The humans had announced their presence in galactic affairs, and they would not tolerate the murder of innocents. The war for the soul of the galaxy had begun, and Earth's children were leading the fight. High Admiral Vorth of the Kreth Empire stood in the command center of his flagship, watching the tactical displays with growing disbelief. The reports from the Valari system made no sense. How could 83 of his ships simply disappear? Show me the transmission again, he growled to his communications officer. The holographic display flickered to life, showing the final moments of the Kreth bombardment fleet. The images were confused and chaotic. Brief glimpses of unknown ships moving at impossible speeds, weapons that seemed to punch through Kreth armor like it was made of paper, and explosions that consumed his mighty warships in seconds. What species are these attackers? Vorth demanded. Sub-Commander Klex consulted his databanks nervously. The surviving ships reported they called themselves humans, my lord. They claim to be from something called the United Earth Federation. Humans. Vorth repeated the word like a curse. I have heard this name. They are supposed to be primitives, from a single world. Perhaps the reports were wrong, my lord. Vorth studied the tactical data from the battle. His fleet had been scattered and destroyed by a force less than half its size. Such a thing should have been impossible. The Kreth Empire had conquered 17 different species. None of them had fought back like this. How many ships did we lose in total? 83 destroyed, my lord. 12 more severely damaged and unable to fight. Nearly 100 ships, an entire sector fleet, gone in a matter of hours. Vorth felt a cold anger building in his chest. For 300 years, the Kreth Empire had expanded unopposed. No species had ever successfully resisted them. What is the status of our reinforcement fleets? He asked. The second and third battle groups are approaching the Valari system, my lord. 400 ships under Admiral Korth's command. Vorth nodded with satisfaction. 400 ships would be more than enough to crush these humans, no matter how advanced their technology. The Kreth way was simple. When faced with resistance, apply overwhelming force until the resistance was crushed. Send Admiral Korth new orders, he commanded. The humans are to be taken alive if possible. I want to interrogate them before they die. But even as he gave the orders, Vorth felt a nagging doubt. The humans had destroyed his ships too easily, too completely. Perhaps they were more dangerous than any species the Kreth had previously encountered. My lord, Sub-Commander Klex interrupted his thoughts. There is another matter. The humans rescued the surviving Valari. How many survived? Our estimates suggest approximately 50,000 civilians, plus whatever ships manage to escape. 50,000. Out of a population of 8 billion Valari, only 50,000 remained alive. It should have been a complete victory, but somehow it felt like a defeat. The humans will protect them, Vorth said, thinking aloud. They will try to evacuate them to safety. An idea began forming in his mind. If the humans cared about protecting innocents, that could be used against them. The Kreth Empire controlled many star systems with billions of civilians. Threaten those populations, and the humans might be forced to surrender. Send orders to all sector commanders, he decided. Begin immediate extermination protocols on all occupied worlds. If the humans want to save civilians, let them try to save them all. Sub-Commander Klex looked uncomfortable. My lord, that would mean killing over 100 billion beings across 50 star systems. Exactly, Vorth replied coldly. Let the humans choose. Surrender to us, or watch entire species die because of their interference. The orders went out. Across the Kreth Empire, carried by the fastest communication systems available. On dozens of worlds, Kreth commanders received their instructions and began preparing for mass murder on an unprecedented scale. Meanwhile, in the Valari system, Admiral J. Sung was dealing with the immediate aftermath of the rescue operation. The surviving Valari were grateful but traumatized. Many had lost their entire families. All had watched their civilization die in a matter of weeks. Admiral. Intelligence Commander Nari approached with a grim expression. We're intercepting Kreth communications across their empire. They're implementing something called extermination protocols on all their conquered worlds. Jae Sung felt his blood run cold. Meaning what, exactly? They're planning to kill every civilian on every world they control. Our estimates suggest over 100 billion beings. The bridge fell silent as the implications sank in. The Kreth Empire was preparing to commit genocide on a scale never before seen in galactic history, and they were doing it in response to the human rescue of the Valari. How long do we have? Jae Sung asked quietly. Based on their communication patterns, the extermination will begin in 72 hours. They want to give us time to hear about it and realize what we've caused. Commander Hyo-jin stepped forward, her tactical mind already working on the problem. Sir, we can't be in 50 star systems at once. Even if we split our fleet, we could. Maybe save a few worlds. And while we're saving those few, the rest will die, Jae Sung finished. It's a trap. They're forcing us to choose which populations live and which die. Engineering Chief Woo Sung had been studying the captured Kreth databases. Admiral, there might be another option. Their extermination protocols are centrally controlled. If we could capture their command center, we'd need to know where it is, Nari pointed out. And we'd need to get there before the 72-hour deadline. Squadron Leader Chang Min had been listening to the discussion with growing anger. Sir, we can't let them murder billions of people because we saved the Valari. We're not going to, Jae Sung said firmly. But we need a plan that saves everyone, not just some. He studied the tactical displays showing Kreth space. 50 star systems, hundreds of worlds, billions of innocent beings. The scale was overwhelming, but there had to be a solution. Nari, what do we know about their command structure? Highly centralized, sir. All major decisions come from their home system. If we could disrupt their communications network, the extermination orders would never reach the outer worlds, Hyo-jin finished. But we'd still need to stop the killing. That's already begun. Jae Sung made his decision. We split the fleet. Half continues rescue operations in Kreth space. The other half goes directly for their home system. Sir, that's incredibly risky, Wusung warned. We'll be dividing our forces in enemy territory. It's the only way to save everyone, Jae-sung replied. Commander Hyojin, you'll take command of the rescue operations. Hit their worlds fast and hard. Evacuate as many civilians as possible. What? About you, sir? I'm taking the other half of the fleet to the Kreth home system. If we can cut the head off the snake, the body will die. As the human fleet prepared to split up, Scholar Captain Thale of the Valari requested a private meeting with Admiral Jae-sung. The alien was small and fragile-looking, with large eyes that held depths of ancient wisdom. Admiral, Thale said, through the translation system, my people owe you everything, but I fear you are making a terrible mistake. How so? The Kreth are not like other species. They do not surrender. They do not negotiate. They will kill everyone they can reach rather than admit defeat. Jae-sung studied the alien's expression, seeing genuine concern. What are you suggesting? Total war, Admiral. The Kreth Empire must be completely destroyed. Every ship, every base, every commander. If even one of them survives, they will rebuild and begin the killing again. The words hung in the air between them. Total war meant abandoning the rules that civilized species followed. It meant becoming as ruthless as the enemy. I understand your point, Jae-sung said finally, but we're not like them. We protect innocents, even enemy civilians. Thala's large eyes reflected sadness. Admiral, there are no innocent Kreth. Their entire society is built on conquest and murder. Every civilian supports the military that practices genocide. As the Valari scholar left, Jae-sung stood alone on his bridge, contemplating the choice ahead. Save the enemy civilians and risk allowing the Kreth Empire to rebuild or destroy them completely and ensure the genocide ended forever. In 72 hours, he would have to decide not just the fate of the Kreth Empire, but the kind of species humanity would become in their new role as galactic protectors. The enemy reinforcements were approaching, time was running out, and the largest rescue operation in galactic history was about to begin. The Kreth home system had never seen war. For 3 centuries, it had been the beating heart of an empire built on the suffering of others. Its orbital platforms were massive monuments to Kreth superiority, armed with enough firepower to destroy fleets. Its shipyards produced the vessels that carried death to peaceful worlds across the galaxy. Admiral Jae-sung brought 100 human warships out of hyperspace directly into the heart of this fortress system. The indomitable Fury led the charge, its weapons already charging as alarms began screaming across every Kreth installation. All ships begin Operation Deathworld, Jae-sung commanded. No mercy, no quarter. The Kreth Empire ends today. The battle for the Kreth homeworld became known as the 6-Hour War, though the outcome was decided in the first 6 minutes. The human fleet struck with a precision and fury that shattered every assumption the Kreth had made about warfare. Commander, Hyojin had divided her ships into surgical strike teams. Each group targeted specific objectives: orbital platforms, communication arrays, shipyards, and military bases. The Kreth defenders tried to respond, but their ponderous vessels were designed for bombardment, not fleet combat. Ghostwing, you are clear for attack on the primary command station, Jae-sung ordered. Squadron leader Chang Min led his fighters through a maze of defensive fire, their small ships weaving between energy beams that could vaporize a capital ship. The Kreth gunners tried desperately to track the swift human fighters, but they might as well have tried to swat lightning bolts. "Target acquired," Chang Min reported. "Beginning attack run on the command center." The orbital command station was the size of a small moon, bristling with weapons and armor. It coordinated the entire Kreth military and housed the computers that would send the extermination orders to 50 star systems. It had to be destroyed. Human fighters swarmed over the massive structure like angry insects, their precision weapons targeting critical systems. Explosions bloomed across its surface as shield generators died and armor plating was blown away. Within minutes, the pride of the Kreth Empire was a burning wreck, but the human fleet wasn't finished. Engineering Chief Wu Sung had identified the Kreth's weakness during the analysis of captured ships. Their entire military was controlled by centralized computer systems. Destroy the central nodes, and the outlying forces would be paralyzed. "Admiral, I'm detecting the main communication hub," Wu Sung reported. "It's on the second moon, heavily fortified." "Take it out," Jae Sung ordered. The human attack on the communication hub was devastating, kinetic weapons moving at relativistic speeds punched through layers of armor like they were paper. The explosion was visible from across the star system as the facility that had coordinated 3 centuries of genocide was reduced to radioactive dust. Across Kreth space, military commanders suddenly found themselves cut off from central command. The extermination orders that were supposed to go out in 72 hours would never arrive. Local commanders hesitated, uncertain whether to proceed without confirmation. That hesitation saved billions of lives. Meanwhile, Intelligence Commander Nari had been monitoring Kreth communications throughout the battle. "Admiral, we're receiving a transmission from the planetary surface. It's High Admiral Vorth, the Supreme Commander of their military. Put him through." The face that appeared on the screen was alien but unmistakably military. High Admiral Vorth had the bearing of someone who had commanded fleets and decided the fate of worlds. Now, he looked like someone watching his empire burn. "Human Admiral," Vorth said through the translation system, "you have destroyed our orbital defenses, but we still control 50 star systems and hundreds of billions of civilians. Withdraw now, or we will kill them all." Jae Sung stepped forward, his expression cold as space itself. "High Admiral Vorth, your empire is finished. Your communication systems are destroyed. Your fleets are scattered. The question now is whether you die with honor or as a war criminal." Vorth's alien features twisted in rage. "You cannot stop us all. Even if you destroy this system, our local commanders will. Continue the extermination." "Your local commanders can't receive orders," Nari interjected. "We've severed all your communication networks. They're isolated and confused." The Kreth Admiral's confidence wavered as he realized the truth. His empire had been built on centralized control. Without the ability to coordinate, his forces were just scattered ships with no unified purpose. "This is not over, human," Vorth snarled. "The Kreth will rebuild. We will hunt your species across the galaxy. We will make you pay for this interference." Admiral Jae Sung had heard enough. "No, you won't." He turned to his weapons officer. "Target the planetary surface, military installations only. I want their war machine completely destroyed." What followed was surgical devastation on an unprecedented scale. Human weapons, guided by perfect intelligence from captured databases, struck every military facility on the Kreth homeworld. Shipyards vanished in balls of plasma. Training centers were reduced to craters. Weapon factories simply ceased to exist. But The human fleet carefully avoided civilian areas. Hospitals, schools, and residential districts remained untouched. Despite their fury at Kreth genocide, the humans retained their humanity. "Admiral," Commander Yu Jin reported from her medical ship, "we're detecting massive civilian casualties in the military zones. Should we offer medical assistance?" The question hung in the air. These were the same beings whose empire had practiced genocide against 17 species. They had murdered billions of innocents, yet they were still civilians, non-combatants. Caught in a war zone, Jae-sung made his choice. Send medical teams to treat the wounded. We're not like them. As human medical personnel landed on the Kreth homeworld to treat enemy wounded, news of the battle spread across the galaxy. The mighty Kreth Empire, which had seemed unstoppable, had been brought to its knees in 6 hours by a single human. "Fleet, sir, we're receiving surrender requests from Kreth installations across the galaxy," Nari reported. "Local commanders are asking for terms." What kind of terms? Complete cessation of hostilities, protection for their civilians, and trials for war criminals. Jae-sung nodded with satisfaction. Acceptable. But make it clear. Any commander who continues the extermination protocols will be hunted down and destroyed. The message went out across human communication networks, carried by quantum transmitters to every corner of human space. Within hours, it was being broadcast on all frequencies. The Kreth Empire surrenders unconditionally. All hostilities will cease immediately. Any attempt to harm civilians will result in immediate military response. As the human fleet secured the Kreth home, system reports began coming in from the other half of their forces. Commander Hyojin's rescue ships had reached a dozen Kreth-occupied worlds, arriving just as local forces were preparing to implement extermination protocols. The speed and precision of the human interventions shocked the Kreth commanders. Ships that had seemed invincible were destroyed in minutes. Orbital platforms that had controlled star systems for decades were reduced to debris. The message was clear: resist and die. Most chose to surrender. "Admiral," Hyojin's voice came through the long-range communicator. "We've secured 12 systems and evacuated approximately 2 million civilians to safety. The local Kreth forces have agreed to stand down pending negotiations." "Casualties?" Jae-sung asked. "Minimal on our side, sir. 3 ships damaged, no losses. Enemy casualties are heavy, but we've avoided harming civilians wherever possible." As the 6-hour war came to an end, Admiral Jae-sung stood on the bridge of the Indomitable Fury, looking down at the Kreth homeworld. Smoke rose from the ruins of military installations, but the civilian cities remained intact. It was a victory, but one that left him with difficult questions. "Admiral," Nari approached with final casualty reports. "Total Kreth military losses are estimated at over 300 ships and 50,000 personnel. Civilian casualties are relatively light, considering the scale of the engagement." "And the rescued populations?" "We estimate we've saved approximately 50 billion beings across the Kreth Empire. The extermination protocols were never fully implemented. 50 billion lives saved, 17 extinct species avenged, and genocidal empire brought to justice." It should have felt like a complete victory, but Jae-sung knew this was only the beginning. The galaxy was full of species like the Kreth, aggressive empires that preyed on the weak. Today's victory had announced humanity's presence on the galactic stage. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. "Sir," Chang Min's voice came through the communicator, "Ghost Wing has completed reconnaissance of the outer system. No enemy ships remaining. The system is secure. Thank you, Squadron Leader. All ships prepare for the next phase of operations." As word of the Kreth Empire's defeat spread across the galaxy, peaceful species everywhere began to hope. The Deathworlders of Earth had proven that genocide would not be tolerated. Predatory empires took note, wondering if they might be next. The balance of power in the galaxy had shifted forever. 6 months after the fall of the Kreth Empire, the galaxy had become a very different place. Where once aggressive species had terrorized peaceful civilizations, now they looked over their shoulders and wondered if Earth's warships might appear. In their skies, Admiral Jae Sung stood in the conference chamber of New Haven Station, the massive space facility that had been constructed in the former Kreth home system. Representatives from dozens of species filled the hall, their various forms creating a tapestry of galactic diversity that would have been impossible under Kreth rule. At the center of the gathering sat Scholar Captain Thale of the Valari, now serving as the elected leader of his surviving people. The 50,000 Valari who had escaped genocide were slowly rebuilding their civilization, aided by technology and resources from their new human allies. The Andros Accords represent a new beginning for our galaxy, Thale announced to the assembly. Never again will peaceful species face extinction alone. The United Earth Federation has pledged to defend any civilization that requests protection from aggression. President Yoon Hai had arrived from Earth the previous week to oversee the signing of the historic agreement. She stood now at the podium, looking out at representatives from species that had never before felt safe enough to gather in one place. "The accords are simple," she said, her voice carrying clearly through the translation systems. "Any species that practices genocide or threatens peaceful civilizations will face the full military might of humanity. But any species that seeks only to live in peace will find in us their strongest protectors." The signing ceremony was interrupted by an urgent communication from Captain Hyunwoo at Aurora Station. His face appeared on the main display, his expression familiar to those who remembered the first Velari distress call. "Admiral Jae Sung, President Yoon Hai, we're receiving another distress signal," he reported. "This time from the Zalthar system, 38 light-years from here. A species called the Kef are under attack by something called the Mordak hegemony." The conference hall fell silent. This was exactly what they had been preparing for. Another aggressive empire targeting innocent civilians. But now the galaxy had protectors. Admiral Jae Sung stepped forward. "What's the status of our fleets?" "The 3rd and 5th Expeditionary Fleets are on patrol near that sector," reported Admiral Dong-hyun via communication link from Earth. "They can be there within 48 hours. "Authorization?" Jae Sung asked, looking at President Yoon Hai. "Granted," she replied without hesitation. "Show the Mordak hegemony what happened to the Kreth Empire." As orders went out to the human fleets, the conference resumed with renewed purpose. The delegates had just witnessed the new galactic order in action. Aggressive empires could no longer count on their victims being helpless. Intelligence Commander Nari had spent months analyzing the aftermath of the Kreth War. Her reports painted a picture of a galaxy in transition, where balance was slowly being restored after centuries of predation. "The effects have been remarkable," she reported to the assembled delegates. 17 aggressive species have voluntarily ceased hostile activities. 4 empires have requested negotiations to avoid conflict with humanity. And 12 previously conquered worlds have declared independence, knowing they can call for Earth's protection. The transformation hadn't been without challenges. Some species resented human intervention, claiming it was just another form of imperialism. But the difference was clear. Humans didn't conquer or colonize. They protected and left. Engineering Chief Wu Sung had established repair and construction facilities throughout the former Kreth space, helping liberated worlds rebuild their infrastructure. "We're not here to rule anyone," he explained to visiting delegates. "We're here to make sure everyone has the chance to rule themselves." The Volari had become humanity's strongest supporters in these efforts. Their advanced knowledge of galactic trade routes and diplomatic protocols made them invaluable partners in the reconstruction process. "Admiral," Thale approached Jae Sung during a break in the conference, "my people have been discussing how to repay humanity for saving our species." "That's not necessary," Jae Sung replied. "We didn't save you for payment." "We know. That's exactly why we want to help." Thale's large eyes reflected deep gratitude. "We offer our knowledge, our technology, our entire database of galactic information. But more than that, we offer ourselves as permanent allies in this mission to protect the innocent." As the Andros Accords were formally signed by 47 different species, Captain Hyun Woo continued his monitoring duties at Aurora Station. The Deep Space Listening Post had become the galaxy's early warning system, constantly scanning for distress calls from threatened civilizations. Communications. Officer Ji-eun worked beside him, her skills now supplemented by advanced alien technology provided by grateful species. Together, they monitored hundreds of star systems, ready to alert Earth's fleets to any new threats. "It's amazing how quiet space has become," Ji-eun observed. 6 months ago, we were hearing distress calls almost daily. Now, the aggressive species are too afraid to start conflicts. "Fear can be a tool for peace," Hyunwoo agreed. "But we need to stay vigilant. There are still predatory empires out there, and some of them might be smart enough to adapt." His words proved prophetic. Within hours of the Kef distress call, reports began arriving of a new threat. The Mordak hegemony was unlike the Kreth Empire. Where the Kreth had been brutal but predictable, the Mordak were subtle and intelligent. They used economic warfare, political manipulation, and surgical military strikes rather than mass genocide. Admiral Dong Hyun briefed the responding fleet commanders from Earth. "This enemy is different. They're not mindless killers like the Kreth. They're strategists who have studied our tactics and adapted their approach." "How so?" asked Admiral Min Seo, commander of the 3rd Expeditionary Fleet. "They're targeting species before they can call for help. Jamming communications, destroying deep space installations, isolating their victims. By the time we hear about an attack, it's already too late." The briefing was sobering. Humanity had won their first galactic war through superior technology and tactics, but now they faced an enemy that had learned from the Kreth's mistakes. "What are our orders?" asked Admiral Tae-young of the 5th Fleet. "Find them and stop them," Dong-hyun replied simply. "The Andros Accords guarantee protection for all peaceful species. We will honor that commitment." As the human fleets departed for their new mission, President Yoon Hai remained at New Haven Station to continue diplomatic efforts. The galaxy needed more than military protection. It needed a framework for lasting peace. "Admiral Jae Sung," she said privately, "I'm promoting you to Supreme Fleet Commander. Your new mission is to establish permanent patrol routes throughout the galaxy. Any species that threatens peace will know that human ships are never far away." The promotion came with enormous responsibility. Jae Sung would command multiple fleets across hundreds of star systems, ensuring that the peace won through the Kreth. War would be maintained. "Ma'am, that's a massive undertaking. We'll need bases, supply lines, intelligence networks." "Then build them," Yoon Hai replied. "The galaxy has called on humanity to be its protectors. We won't let them down." As the Conference concluded. Delegates returned to their home worlds carrying news of the new galactic order. For the first time in centuries, peaceful species could develop their civilizations without fear of sudden annihilation. Scholar Captain Thale was among the last to leave, taking a moment to speak privately with Admiral J. Sung. "Admiral, my people, have a saying. The storm that saves is more valuable than the calm that kills. You brought the storm of war to our enemies, but you brought the calm of peace to the innocent." "We're just doing what's right," J. Sung replied. "Exactly. And that's why the galaxy trusts you." As New Haven Station settled into its role as the headquarters of galactic peacekeeping operations, Captain Hyun Woo received yet another transmission at Aurora Station. This time it wasn't a distress call. It was a message of thanks from a species that had just achieved independence after centuries of oppression. "Captain," Ji-Yun said with a smile, "we're also getting reports from the KEF system. Admiral Minseo's fleet arrived just as the Mordak were beginning their assault. The enemy retreated without a fight when they saw our ships." "Smart of them," Hyun Woo replied. "Word is spreading that challenging humanity means facing the same fate as the Kreth Empire." The communication board lit up with incoming messages from across the galaxy. Species that had never before dared to speak publicly were broadcasting messages of gratitude to Earth. Others were requesting membership in the growing alliance of protected worlds. But among the messages of thanks were new distress calls. The galaxy was vast, and there were always predators seeking prey among the peaceful civilizations scattered across the stars. "Another distress signal," Ji-Yun reported, her voice taking on the familiar tone of someone who had become the galaxy's emergency dispatcher. "This one from the Outer Rim territories. A species called the Thylin report raids by something called the Ravager clans." Hyun Woo nodded and opened a channel to Earth Defense Command. "This is Aurora Station. We have another situation requiring fleet response." 6 months after the fall of the Kreth Empire, the galaxy had become a very different place. Where once aggressive species had terrorized peaceful civilizations, now they looked over their shoulders and wondered if Earth's warships might appear. In their skies, Admiral J. Sung stood in the conference chamber of New Haven Station, the massive space facility that had been constructed in the former Kreth home system. Representatives from dozens of species filled the hall, their various forms creating a tapestry of galactic diversity that would have been impossible under Kreth rule. At the center of the gathering sat Scholar Captain Thale of the Valari, now serving as the elected leader of his surviving people. The 50,000 Valari who had escaped genocide were slowly rebuilding their civilization, aided by technology and resources from their new human allies. "The Andros Accords represent a new beginning for our galaxy," Thale announced to the assembly. "Never again will peaceful species face extinction alone. The United Earth Federation has pledged to defend any civilization that requests protection from aggression." President Yoon Hai had arrived from Earth the previous week to oversee the signing of the historic agreement. She stood now at the podium, looking out at representatives from species that had never before felt safe enough to gather in one place. "The accords are simple," she said, her voice carrying clearly through the translation systems. "Any species that practices genocide or threatens peaceful civilizations will face the full military might of humanity. But any species that seeks only to live in peace will find in us their strongest protectors." The signing ceremony was interrupted by an urgent communication from Captain Hyun-Woo at Aurora Station. His face appeared on the main display, his expression familiar to those who remembered the first Valari distress call. Admiral Jae Sung, President Yoon Hai, were receiving another distress signal, he reported. This time from the Zalthar system, 38 light-years from here. A species called the Kef are under attack by something called the Mordak hegemony. The conference hall fell silent. This was exactly what they had been preparing for. Another aggressive empire targeting innocent civilians. But now the galaxy had protectors. Admiral Jae Sung stepped forward. "What's the status of our fleets?" "The 3rd and 5th Expeditionary Fleets are on patrol near that sector," reported Admiral Dong Hyun via communication link from Earth. "They can be there within 48 hours. "Authorization?" Jae Sung asked, looking at President Yoon Hai. "Granted," she replied without hesitation. "Show the Mordak hegemony what happened to the Kreth Empire." As orders went out to the human fleets, the conference resumed with renewed purpose. The delegates had just witnessed the new galactic order in action. Aggressive empires could no longer count on their victims being helpless. Intelligence Commander Nari had spent months analyzing the aftermath of the Kreth War. Her reports painted a picture of a galaxy in transition, where balance was slowly being restored after centuries of predation. "The effects have been remarkable," she reported to the assembled delegates. 17 aggressive species have voluntarily ceased hostile activities. 4 empires have requested negotiations to avoid conflict with humanity. And 12, previously, conquered worlds have declared independence, knowing they can call for Earth's protection. The transformation hadn't been without challenges. Some species resented human intervention, claiming it was just another form of imperialism. But the difference was clear. Humans didn't conquer or colonize. They protected and left. Engineering Chief Woo Sung had established repair and construction facilities throughout the former Kreth space, helping liberated worlds rebuild their infrastructure. "We're not here to rule anyone," he explained to visiting delegates. "We're here to make sure everyone has the chance to rule themselves." The Volari had become humanity's strongest supporters in these efforts. Their advanced knowledge of galactic trade routes and diplomatic protocols made them invaluable partners in the reconstruction process. "Admiral," Thale approached Jae Sung during a break in the conference, "my people have been discussing how to repay humanity for saving our species." "That's not necessary," Jae Sung replied. "We didn't save you for payment." "We know. That's exactly why we want to help." Thale's large eyes reflected deep gratitude. "We offer our knowledge, our technology, our entire database of galactic information. But more than that, we offer ourselves as permanent allies in this mission to protect the innocent." As the Andros Accords were formally signed by 47 different species, Captain Hyun Woo continued his monitoring duties at Aurora Station. The Deep Space Listening Post had become the galaxy's early warning system, constantly scanning for distress calls from threatened civilizations. Communications. Officer Ji-eun worked beside him, her skills now supplemented by advanced alien technology provided by grateful species. Together they monitored hundreds of star systems, ready to alert Earth's fleets to any new threats. "It's amazing how quiet space has become," Ji-eun observed. 6 months ago, we were hearing distress calls almost daily. Now, the aggressive species are too afraid to start conflicts. "Fear can be a tool for peace," Hyun Woo agreed. "But we need to stay vigilant. There are still predatory empires out there, and some of them might be smart enough to adapt." His words proved prophetic. Within hours of the Kef distress call, reports began arriving of a new threat. The Mordak hegemony was unlike the Kreth Empire. Where the Kreth had been brutal but predictable, the Mordak were subtle and intelligent. They used economic warfare, political manipulation, and surgical military strikes rather than mass genocide. Admiral Dong Hyun briefed the responding fleet commanders from Earth. This enemy is different. They're not mindless killers like the Kreth. They're strategists who have studied our tactics and adapted their approach. How so? Asked Admiral Min Seo, commander of the 3rd Expeditionary Fleet. They're targeting species before they can call for help. Jamming communications, destroying deep space installations, isolating their victims. By the time we hear about an attack, it's already too late. The briefing was sobering. Humanity had won their first galactic war through superior technology and tactics. But now they faced an enemy that had learned from the Kreth's mistakes. "What are our orders?" asked Admiral Tae-young of the 5th Fleet. "Find them and stop them," Dong Hyun replied simply. "The Andros Accords guarantee protection for all peaceful species. We will honor that commitment." As the human fleets departed for their new mission, President Yoon Hai remained at New Haven Station to continue diplomatic efforts. The galaxy needed more than military protection. It needed a framework for lasting peace. "Admiral Jae Sung," she said privately, "I'm promoting you to Supreme Fleet Commander. Your new mission is to establish permanent patrol routes throughout the galaxy. Any species that threatens peace will know that human ships are never far away." The promotion came with enormous responsibility. Jae Sung would command multiple fleets across hundreds of star systems, ensuring that the peace won through the Kreth. War would be maintained. "Ma'am, that's a massive undertaking. We'll need bases, supply lines, intelligence networks. Then build them," Yoon Hai replied. "The galaxy has called on humanity to be its protectors. We won't let them down." As the conference concluded, delegates returned to their home worlds carrying news of the new galactic order. For the first time in centuries, peaceful species could develop their civilizations without fear of sudden annihilation. Scholar Captain Thale was among the last to leave, taking a moment to speak privately with Admiral Jae Sung. "Admiral, my people have a saying, the storm that saves is more valuable than the calm that kills. You brought the storm of war to our enemies, but you brought the calm of peace to the innocent." "We're just doing what's right," Jae Sung replied. "Exactly, and that's why the galaxy trusts you." As New Haven Station settled into its role as the headquarters of galactic peacekeeping operations, Captain Hyunwoo received yet another transmission at Aurora Station. This time it wasn't a distress call. It was a message of thanks from a species that had just achieved independence after centuries of oppression. "Captain," Ji-yoon said with a smile, "we're also getting reports from the Kef system. Admiral Minseo's fleet arrived just as the Mordak were beginning their assault. The enemy retreated without a fight when they saw our ships." "Smart of them," Hyunwoo replied. "Word is spreading that challenging humanity means facing the same fate as the Kreth Empire." The communication board lit up with incoming messages from across the galaxy. Species that had never before dared to speak publicly were broadcasting messages of gratitude to Earth. Others were requesting membership in the growing alliance of protected worlds. But among the messages of thanks were new distress calls. The galaxy was vast, and there were always predators seeking prey among the peaceful civilizations scattered across the stars. "Another distress signal," Ji-yoon reported, her voice taking on the familiar tone of someone who had become the galaxy's emergency dispatcher. "This one from the Outer Rim territories. A species called the Thylin report raids by something called the Ravager clans." Hyunwoo nodded and opened a channel to Earth Defense Command. "This is Aurora Station. We have another Situation requiring fleet response.